Hey guys, I'm back. Decided to make another video on Monday after Super Bowl Sunday. My Chiefs got it done. It's a beautiful day outside. I honestly couldn't be more excited. And I'm also excited about some stuff I'd gotten in the mail. And I wanted to do this just to kind of give you guys a little insight of what I got going on. I think it'd be fun and maybe help some people out. Kind of decide some stuff. I'm learning too with a lot of this stuff, and I can't wait to try out exactly what I've got. And hopefully you guys will too. It's always fun to try stuff, and you never know if you're gonna get faster unless you kind of experiment every once in a while. Because I know the guys I race against, they're always trying stuff, and they're extremely fast in this area. So you got to do stuff to kind of see if you can get to that level and maybe a little bit past it. But still working on the stuff. Excited to see what I've got today. So hopefully you guys will too. All right, so here's some stuff I'd gotten in the mail. Ended up getting it, I think it was Friday or Saturday. Can't really remember, but yeah. So I got all this stuff from Go Fast Hobbies, minus the spring and the oil here. But this is a Team Velocity front bumper riser, and these are actually the quasi big bore springs. I've heard a lot of great things about these from the Team Velocity guys, and I've been wanting to try them for a while now. Can't wait to put them on the cars and try them this weekend. Hopefully they're exactly what they say they are, and yeah, maybe gain a little bit more speed. So a little information about these guys. So these quasi springs, in the actual kit you get, I think there's a 4 to 10 pound. So you do get a wide variety in these kits. They're $39.95. So they are a little bit pricier than the Custom Works Big Bore Spring Kit. The one thing I really like about these are all the pounds. Whenever they're rated on the compression scale, they are very consistent with the range that they are given in. I've actually had some Custom Works springs. I've put them on my car, and they could be the exact same pound, and the car will just kind of act different. Didn't know why. Kind of fought it all day on some occasions, and then you go back to the original spring you had on it, and the car just kind of wakes back up or acts like you originally wanted it to. So this was one thing I wanted to try. Like I said, a lot of good things. A lot of the guys have been running them, and kind of give you a little bit of information about them. So the quasi springs are actually a linear spring. What that means is they're not progressive like the Custom Works spring. The Custom Works springs, they're soft initially. So like on the initial compression, they're soft, and then they get hard right there through the middle stroke. And what that does is it will make the car initially a little lazier, and it won't quite be as nimble unless you go to a lot of preload and you just kind of take out the initial progressive of the shock spring. And I've noticed that, like, my car, I've got it where I want it, but it tends on high bite. It can be a little lazy at times. So I've heard with these kind of take that away, make the car more nimble, more reactive, and they're just more consistent. So with the linear spring, your setup window is going to be a little smaller. The Custom Works spring is known for being a little safer, especially on like a rough track with the progressive, the actual progressive side of it. Since it being a little softer, it makes the car a little bit more comfortable to drive. It's kind of like a preference thing. The setup window is a little shorter because the compression range through the entire time is going to be the same. It's not a softer initial feel, so when you go into the corner, you're already on the pound that it's rated at. It's not going to have that initial little bump to it. So on a high bite track, this should make the car more nimble, and I'm just excited to try them. I've heard a lot of great things about them, so can't wait to go there and start trying stuff out this weekend on the sprint car. And then on the late model, I actually got this from Go Fast Hobbies as well. This is a front bumper riser. It's actually got a protective lip on it to cover the bottom carbon of the chassis. I know, like on high bite tracks and tracks that are banked, or more just in general, you want the car to roll. I don't like a lot of drag brake, so I kind of adjust my roll settings with spring, roll centers, and then I do like to mess with I don't really change shock oils a whole lot. I mainly do that depending on if I'm going like loose dirt or not. I generally keep the shock oil the same. But you know, and I'll change droop if I want to get more, you know, front initial roll also into a corner to allow the car to dive and turn, get more weight transfer. But on a late model, especially on the Team Velocity car, if you look here, the front bumper is flat with the bottom of the chassis. I know a lot of the late models out there, they'll have like a little kick up in the front to allow more chassis roll. As it is right now, the car will actually dig into the corner. And I do have the ride height set a little low. I had set the ride height on this for the body whenever I had the electronics out of it. But it'll raise the front bumper up a little bit, give you more ground clearance, which will allow more chassis roll. You know, because whenever the front bumper digs into the dirt, you don't want to scrub off speed. It can upset the chassis, actually unload it. So this is a great little tool. It's specifically for the Team Velocity cars. It can be used on either the TLR version or the Team Associated version. So I think that's a great point to try out. They're only like $10, so you don't really have a lot to lose if you put it on and try it. And I think it's a great little additive to go about. All right, so next up I wanted to talk about the shock oil I run. So I've been running this PTRC Racing shock oil for, I mean, probably the last 5 years, and I've come to love it. All shock oil isn't the same, but there are a lot of shock oils out there. This is actually rated in CST, so it's on a like, you know, a Sensi stroke scale. It's the industry standard. But to give you a little bit of information about it, let me see there. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. I don't really know if it's focusing. But I've been running this for a long time, and the cool thing about this oil is it doesn't have a big drastic swing with temperature. I mean, I've ran it in hot weather. I've ran the same oil in cold weather, and the car generally feels the same. There's a slight difference, but it's not drastic like a lot of other oils out there. The viscosity of it generally stays the same, and it's really consistent. So I've just been running this, and the cool thing about CST, they go in smaller increments, so you can go like in 25 points, like a 400, 375, 350. You can really get kind of down to a gnat's butt with it. And if you are like a big tinker, or if you don't think that you want to make a drastic change and you're not sure quite of the setup that you want to put on, like let's say you're going in the main, you're a little hesitant, well, you can go in a 25 point rating, and it's not as drastic of a swing as if you were going to change weight. Like in weight, they'll go in like a half increment scale or like a quarter increment scale. So these are like in between the quarters. So this is actually 425 CST is like what 35 weight associated oil would be. So that's what I run. I'm not sponsored by them, not promoting them just because they gave me shock oil or anything, but I honestly think this stuff's great. I know generally most CST rated stuff, they're all pretty good. They're more than likely the same to some degree. But yeah, I've been running that for a while, and just wanted to give you guys a little update kind of on what I use and go from there. All right, so this is my late model, and I apologize about the sun. I've got a window right in front of me for my shop, but I got to do with what I can. So hopefully it doesn't look too bad on camera. But so on this Team Velocity late model, and also my Sprint, so my shock package, I've actually got it to where I've been working on it a lot on the high bite stuff. And what I've noticed about the high bite stuff is you don't want a lot of droop. You want the car to generally stay pretty neutral. You want it nimble. So I actually run, and I'm probably going to, whenever I put the quasi springs on this, I'm going to go stiffer. I'm going to go with like a 7-pound in the rear and a 6 in the front. Kind of start from there and see what I've got. But still 425 CST front and rear. I don't generally change that. I always, if the car starts rolling a lot, I'll actually mess with roll center. Or like if I go into a corner and I let off and it dives really hard, I'll actually play with the rear droop on this. And the rear droop on this, I've already got it to the top. got the arms as wide out on the bottom as possible. I think right now I'm starting off with about 22 and a half millimeters of droop in the rear. And that's with the shock tires maxed in the back, all the way to the top. But why I generally, I mess with droop a lot, pretty much every track I go to. It's a quick little thing you can change on the car and see generally a lot of results. Like if you're going to a corner, so the rear droop, it just affects the corner entry to center. And then rear droop also, it doesn't allow the car, like let's say you're traction rolling, it doesn't allow the car to come up too much. So, you know, it kind of will cure that to some degree, but generally the only thing rear droop does is it allows your car, like under braking, deceleration, allows the car to dive on the front, transfer weight. And the front droop, it's about like the opposite as you would expect. So the front droop on these cars, especially like on high bite, and these conversion cars, they generally have a lot of droop to begin with. But I think I'm running like 21 and a quarter, 21 and a half to start on this late model. I'll probably be going down quite a bit lower than that, to some degree. Like on the sprint car, I think I'm at 21 straight up. But the front droop will actually affect from center out. So let's say your car is just, I mean, tight everywhere. Like when I first started on the sprint car, the car was tight all over the place. Well, I lowered the front droop. I didn't allow it to transfer weight to the rear as much as it initially was. And what happens is whenever you lower the weight transfer in the front, it actually will keep the weight down up here. You don't get as much back here, and it gives you more steering. It doesn't necessarily allow more weight transfer to pop wheelies and stuff like that, like if you're having some issues with that to some degree. But generally the front droop affects from center out. So if you're tight all the time, the first thing I would probably mess with is lower your front droop, go to a smaller stroke, and then kind of see what you've got going with that. There is a fine line. Like I always go generally in like 0.5 millimeter increments. Sometimes, like if the setup's really good and you just need just that tick, I've actually gone in 0.25 millimeter increments as well. It just kind of depends. You just got to play with it and learn, see what you got, and the more you understand it, the more you trial and error, the easier it gets to know what adjustments to make and what not to make. I actually run, so in these shocks, I started out with the factory team associated pistons. I had 1.6 in the rear, or in the front, 1.7 in the rear. I went back to back and I tested them, and I've found a piston that I absolutely love. I'm not sponsored by them. This is just me kind of letting you guys know, like, what I've found from trial and error on these high bite tracks. I run the VRP XV2 pistons, the front and rear. I run a 1.6 by 2 up front, 1.7 by 2 in the rear, and they have that little rubber valve in there, so the compression stays the same. So nothing changes on that aspect. So you're still going to get your same dive, your same weight transfer in that aspect. Compression doesn't change. It only affects your rebound on these shocks. So like if you notice on the front, compression, it's pretty stiff to some degree. When you barely lift up, it goes up easy. So it makes the car more nimble, allows weight transfer a little easier from corner to corner. But what I've noticed is when it allows the weight transfer, the car gets back up to ride height quicker, and it allows it to become more nimble. You get more traction because you're getting more weight to that tire quicker throughout the entire corner. And especially in dirt oval racing, the quicker you can get weight transfer to whatever corner you're working with at that period of time, you know, the faster you're going to be. I don't know. I've ran them on tracks that have been wide flowing, very fast, wet. They've worked great. I've also ran them on really tight paper clips, and they've worked great as well. I've just been kind of trial and error with them, and I found a good setting I like. I actually was running the same weight for the shock oil, the 425 CST. I was running that front and rear. All I did was change the pistons, and I went out there, and the car, honestly, it was a lot more nimble, had a lot more traction to the point where I actually had to raise my bottom roll centers, and I had to lower my top roll centers so the car wouldn't transfer weight as much. It's just a good way to get there. And how I say is, always start with a comfortable setting. Start with where your shocks are a little softer. You know, get an initial comfortable feeling with it. And I always try to go, like, I'll go in practice and I'll start with my base setup. My base setup I go with on every high bite track. I'll generally run reds in the front, greens in the rear for the custom work stuff. I always run the same 425 CST, same pistons, generally the same front and rear droop. I mean, and I always kind of go back to my baseline after the race day, and then I make small adjustments throughout depending on what the track does. But like in practice, I'll go, and if, you know, I need to adjust something, I'll do small adjustments. But generally I go to each track and I start with the baseline and I work from there. There's no need to make drastic changes from track to track. It just makes it a little bit more simple, so you don't get lost and set up. But you can always go back and know what the car is initially going to do. But that's why I run what I run. It's easy for me. Keeps my head on straight. So I generally know what I've got going on whenever I actually go to a track, and I'm not just out to lunch. Generally, if you're out to lunch, a lot of it may be the tires. So always keep your baseline the same. Mess with tires, get your tires right, and then make small adjustments. That's kind of the one thing I've noticed with the dirt oval racing. The tires are the biggest thing. If you don't have the right tires, generally you're either off the pace, getting lapped, or you're spinning out. The setup it's just uncontrollable to drive. So get a good tire setup first, and then generally work with your shock setup. I did want to mention one thing before I go. I actually had a buddy drop me off something pretty cool that he's been working on for the last few weeks. He has a company called Dialed NRC. He actually makes a lot of aluminum parts, pit boards, like car stands for all kinds of different cars. I just wanted to show you guys that real quick. So this is his pit board that he makes, my buddy Jeremiah. It's got an aluminum center. It's got a nice, I think that's Durlin plastic on the bottom, and then he's got clear Lexan on top. But you can actually run screws underneath, like all the way through, with a nut on the bottom. And then you can adjust and level it out. Like if you've got scales, this would be a good pit board to be able to use, so you can level the scales out, scale your car. But yeah, I think this thing's awesome, man. Thank you, Jeremiah. I appreciate you, buddy. I can't wait to get this bad boy wrapped and kind of use it to my advantage at the track. And it's big enough you can put an SC mod on here. You can put like an 8 scale car. Heck, you do about anything you want on it. Heck, you could probably set them almost too wide. But I love it. This is a great tool for the track. Everybody needs a pit board if you want to really make good setup changes, track your setup changes, and kind of see what adjustments you make throughout the night. And if the car's acting weird, you know, you can kind of trial and error and find it, you know, ride heights, camber, all kinds of different stuff. So thank you, buddy. I really appreciate you for this. This thing looks awesome, and I can't wait to put it to use. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, feel free to comment, like, subscribe. I'm gonna keep doing this as long as I can, and I'll have fun with it. I'm having a lot of fun making these. It's something different. I'm not really used to it, kind of getting out of my comfort zone. But yeah, I'm really excited. Try these springs, try some different setup stuff. Waiting on my motors to get here. They should be here any day now. So hopefully we'll be able to have some fun this weekend on Friday and Saturday. If not, that's okay too. We always have practice days. But yeah, thank you all for joining me, and can't wait to talk to you again.